Is the president serious about the allegation? I would say, based on the fact that the president has significant privilege and responsibility and sources of information, when he speaks and says we are about to arrest them, we are happy.
My colleagues, one of the
We are happy that
the
he's saying that.
allegations of extortion
But surely,
by MPs. If the president is serious, he will present the evidence that he has, because he seems to have evidence that he says can, as a next step for him, would be that those MPs that are culpable will be arrested. So if he has evidence, we hope that he has already anyone found culpable, both the bribe giver and the bribe taker must be taken to account, and legal proceedings taken against those found culpable. EACC should not wait to be invited to investigate the matter, but should immediately start investigations. Otherwise, any further public statements on alleged extortions will just remain allegations and will be seen as an attempt to play to the public gallery. The EACC must report publicly on the status of credible investigations and prosecutions and uncompromising enforcement actions regarding previous audit findings, such as the case of the Social Health Insurance Fund and other irregular procurements that have been flagged by the Auditor General. In executing its mandate, as per the Conflict of Interest Act of 2025, we demand that the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, we demand that it must act boldly and fearlessly and be only subservient to the law and public interest. The Conflict of Interest Act 2025 is not just another piece of legislation. It is a constitutional and moral imperative. Enforcement is not optional. This law must either mark the beginning of a new era of accountability, or it will become another failed promise in Kenya's anti-corruption journey. The success of this law depends on ethical and decisive leadership, credible investigations, and uncompromising enforcement. Kenya deserves no less. This statement is signed by the National Integrity Alliance, represented by the leaders here of the N.I.A Kenya Nisisi, the Kenya Human Rights Commission, the Institute of Social Accountability, and Transparency International Kenya. The National Integrity Alliance is a coalition that seeks to breathe life into the constitutional promise on integrity by catalyzing frontline ethics and anti-corruption institutions and active citizens to detect, deter, disrupt, and defeat corruption at all levels of society. That's the end of our statement. We will be welcome to questions.
I'd like to speak to some of the actions that we are already taking and that we plan to take moving forward. As Kenyans, as taxpayers, as a true as a lender of this country, because we say all those people who are in power, their positions will go away, but uraia wetu and our citizenship as Kenyans will not go away. First and foremost is that on the things we've highlighted, we have remained steadfast in ensuring that there is separation of power and have opposed CDF so that we respect the Constitution. We received a judgment in the Supreme Court, in the High Court. Right now, it is the National Assembly that is in the Court of Appeal. As that happens, as members of civil society, when Parliament, you need to capture the conflict of interest. That Parliament thinks that they can legislate a conflict of interest into a constitutional amendment. Because based on what is in the Conflict of Interest Act, where your interest, your personal interest as a member of Parliament are in conflict with a structure that you want to create, it is legislating into the Constitution. You want to make conflict of interest constitutional. That is such a huge paradox. Based on that, we are again in the High Court opposing that. But we've also submitted our submissions to Parliament, and we are waiting to see the miracle that will happen in the enactment of this particular amendment. We've done a lot. There are many other cases that our partners here will speak to. But to start off with, is the president serious about the allegation? I would say, based on the fact that the president has significant privilege and responsibility and sources of information, when he speaks and says we are about to arrest them, we are happy. We are happy that he's saying that. But surely, how did we get here? How many times have we had allegation of laws that have been enacted after people have gone to State House? We have had several people in the public domain, including the former deputy, the impeached deputy president, citing incidences where the voting or the enactment of legislation in the National Assembly in particular has been influenced by the presidency. Nyani haoni kundule. So for now, we look forward to the prosecution of members of parliament. As they are being prosecuted, can they say who paid them? So that then even all those people within the executive who have been receiving, who have been legislating, even the finance bill, conflict of interest. What business did members of parliament have taking it to State House? Yet they are the ones who are in charge of deciding whether we pay a certain tax or not. So I doubt it feels like PR, but if that PR can birth the needed action within our systems, we will celebrate it as we demand further and deeper actions. And colleagues will also share the other research and actions that we
Because if you look at the 7 scandals we have raised, actually 6 falls within the office of the National Executive. Is out of the 7, the one by Parliament is the one which falls within the presidency. So you can see, outside the president. So which means actually the national government is part and parcel of this conundrum of corruption in the country. And therefore, what we want to do, because also this issue of extortion by members of parliament and other legislators, even at the county level, is a national phenomenon. We are also exploring further research and investigation into this. Of course, as we have said in our statement, it is a public position, but we want to establish more data about it. Because apart from what we are calling conflict of interest, and also gaining advantages of others, it compromises actually oversight institutions, because it is the National Assembly, the Senate, and the county assemblies which are responsible for oversighting the national executives and also county executive, the presidency, and also the governorship. So it's a bigger crisis of public finance accountability, which we have to get into.
Thank you very much. My name is Kawibe Wambua from the Inuka Kenya Nisisi organization. And I want to take the question on whether this law will apply retroactively or not. I think the basic thing we should say about this country is that we are not in want of laws. We do not have a problem with the legal infrastructure that we have in this country. Number one, the integrity Act, the Act on Integrity of Public Officers, stipulates clearly some of the things that are captured by this law. The Constitution, the chapter on leadership and integrity, talking about opening of accounts abroad by public officers, talking about personal enrichment. Article 174, talking about devolution and the objects of devolution, clearly states what public resources should be utilized for. So this law comes as an icing of the cake in terms of particular uh, legal provisions for especially prosecutions of people who have been found wanting in terms of the exercise of official functions. And the ESCC, we have said clearly in the statement, is that the ESCC has been sleeping on the job. When they say they want to be invited to investigate, why were they created in the first place? The cases that have been forwarded to the ODPP that have never been investigated, that have never been finalized, also points to the weaknesses in terms of functionality of public institutions. And we are saying that this law should become like a catalyst, something that ignites the fight against corruption in our public institutions. The fact that all of us know that getting to become a member of parliament, getting to get into the executive is the quickest route to becoming rich. That's why our politics are so vicious. Because you get into parliament, you are able to get access to public resources, to get your hand into the public purse. If you become the president, you can be able to control so many millions, becoming a governor, etc. So we are saying the greatest problem that we have had was created actually by the Denver Commission of 1971 and 1974 sessional paper, which this law has reversed. We have spent from 1971 to now, in how many years? About more than 50 years in the wilderness, saying that public officers can do business with public funds. And this law has come to say, no, we can do better. And that's the spirit which we want to apply in the implementation of this law. And that's why today we are saying, let us start off with the gas to the energy to reform our public infrastructure. Thank you.
Let me just conclude by answering and adding voice to the sentiments given by my colleagues. One on the issue of the allegations of extortion by MPs. If the president is serious, he will present the evidence that he has, because he seems to have evidence that he says can, as a next step for him, would be that those MPs that are culpable will be arrested. So if he has evidence, we hope that he has already provided it to the investigating authorities. If he hasn't, we expect that he will provide that evidence so that thorough investigations can be made. And then anyone who's found culpable, both the bribe giver and the bribe taker, should then be processed in a court of law. That is what we expect. And we challenge him to take further action rather than making the public statements. As I said, the public statements will remain mere allegations aimed at playing to the public gallery as we see it. On the issues around whether we are just stopping at making recommendations or statements, I think, as my colleagues have said, we have time without number, taken some of these issues that we have raised further to court. And I can perhaps even share another example, is that as part of the National Integrity Alliance, based on the concerns that we have on misuse of public resources, one of the things that we have done and we will be going to court this week is to seek to stop the construction of a church in State House. Because, as we said, this is very troubling for us, that one can attempt to construct a multi-billion shilling church in State House. This we believe is a private initiative by the president, but then he's using public land. And then this then raises very fundamental questions about the misuse of office and public assets for personal religious interests. If this is not conflict of interest,